governor of the state of Indiana got his power from the infinite wisdom of the General Assembly. Folks, that's wrong. The governor doesn't get his power from the General Assembly. Government gets its just power from the consent of the governed. And when government oversteps its bounds, it is inherent upon us as citizens to put it back in its place. President Ronald Reagan once said, "Government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem." Yeah. Then he went on to say that throughout history, we have decided from time to time to abdicate our ability and responsibility for self-rule and give it to a group of elites who say they can better make decisions for us than we can ourselves. And then he went on to say something very important. If none of us is capable of self-rule, who among us is capable to rule us all? Somebody just asked me what makes me qualified to be governor of the state of Indiana. And I said, well, the state constitution says you have to be 30 years old and lived here for 5 years. That's what qualifies me to be governor of the state of Indiana. Now, what makes me think that I'm qualified to make the decisions in your life? Absolutely nothing. I'm not qualified to decide your life for you. You know why? Because the governor of the state of Indiana does not have to live with the consequences of the decisions that he makes for your life. You do. Right? When the governor says you're essential, but you're not, he doesn't have to deal with the consequences of that decision. You do. When the governor of the state of Indiana says that your business doesn't provide the necessities of life, but yours does, he doesn't have to live with the consequences of that decision. You do. And I'm here to tell you, folks, every business in the state of Indiana provides the necessities of life to the people who work there and depend on that income to pay their bills and take care of their families. Right. And anybody tells you different. Anybody who tells you different is either a liar or a fool. And you can quote me on that. Because anytime somebody wants to tell me what I have to do, but they're not responsible for the consequences that I have to deal with in the aftermath, has no business telling me what to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't heard Eric J. Holcomb say one thing about all the people who are unemployed. He wants you to think that they've all gone back to work. Well, that's not true. A lot of them haven't even gotten their unemployment benefit checks yet. But he's, look at the great job I'm doing. Yeah, because he's still getting a paycheck, and he's still living in your house down on Meridian Street in Indianapolis. And he believes that he's going to stay there because he thinks he's entitled to it, because he's one of those elites that we have subjugated ourselves to. It's time to take the government back. It's time for us to say, we will make the choices and decisions in our lives because we have to pay the consequences. Now let me make one thing very clear. I have traveled all over the state over the last 2 months. I've been in a lot of places with a lot of people. There would be a lot of people would tell you, well, that's really risky with COVID-19. And I will say, yes, it is, but it's the risk I decided to take. I chose to take that risk, and so did everybody, just like you, who showed up to talk to me. Those were individual choices that individuals made, and individuals decided that they were okay dealing with the consequences. Now, the people who want to control you and control your life will tell you, oh, but see, you're not just making that choice for you, you're making it for other people. No, I'm sorry, they can stay the hell away from me if they want to. There is nothing forcing anybody to get within 6 feet of me. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. And all these people who want to tell you, oh no, you don't understand. Yes, I do. I understand completely. 6 feet. Stay back. That's your choice. Oh, but you can infect somebody else who could infect me. Stay away from them too. I mean, let's be honest. You have the right to protect yourself and your family as you see fit. Government doesn't have the right to tell you you can't stay home, and they don't have the right to tell you you must stay home. Government doesn't have the right to tell you you have to go to work, and government doesn't have the right to tell you you can't go to work. Government does not have the right to tell you what church to attend, and they don't have the right to tell you you can't attend church, because they don't live with the consequences you do. And anybody that tries to tell you any different just wants to control your life. And they don't have the right. Because folks, if God gave us free will, government does not have the right to take it away from us. That's all there is to it. And you can all follow the science, show it to me, please. See, don't tell me you looked at it and then tell me that I have to follow your science, because 100 years ago when the Spanish flu came through, doctors prescribed 30 grams of aspirin to people who had the Spanish flu. 30 grams of aspirin we now know to be toxic, to cause your lungs to fill up with fluid, and you drown. But that was the science 100 years ago. So when they tell you follow the science, you know what? If you follow the science because they showed you the science and you decided to do it, you deal with the consequences. But when they say, I looked at the science and I'm going to tell you what to do, no. Because you don't have to deal with the consequences. I do. And that's what this all boils down to, folks. Because on Tuesday, we have to deal with the consequences. We are going to give consent. And we're going to have to deal with the consequences. And we have to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to deal with the consequences of our decisions or Eric Holcomb's? Because I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm not going to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. I'm going to secure the rights of the individual so that you can decide and so that you deal with the consequences of your choices, not a government that has decided that it's okay to sacrifice people who commit suicide or drug overdoses or domestic violence to protect another group of people from a virus.
Thank you.
See, that's the problem we have. Because there are people who have been sacrificed for another group of people. And government decided who it was. A lot of people don't realize this. I'm just going to say a couple of other things that I'll let you go because I know it's really warm and you're probably getting sunburned out here. In April and May of 2020, Indiana had 112 more drug overdose deaths than in April and May of 2019. Now, those are the statistics off of the State Department of Health website. They're there for anybody to look at anytime they want. Have you heard the governor talk about the increase in drug overdose deaths and what we're going to do about it? If you remove the number of COVID-19 deaths that have occurred in long-term care facilities, we have had more drug overdose deaths than we have COVID-19 deaths outside of nursing homes. Think about that. But we're not worrying about that, are we? We don't hear about that in the news every day. We don't know how many suicides we've had because you don't see that published in the newspaper every day, do you?
And how many of the suicides were actually marked as COVID deaths?
That too.
Car crashes that
But,
are marked as COVID deaths.
well, but more importantly, the thing is, and the thing that we have to be very, very aware of, there have been a lot of adverse outcomes for people who were told they had to stay at home, they couldn't work their job, they lost their business and their life savings because this virus. And I'm not saying the virus isn't serious. For certain demographic groups, it's extremely serious. Over 90% of the deaths have been people 60 and over. That's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I have a family member who passed away from Parkinson's and the complications of COVID-19 with Parkinson's. I understand it's a serious thing. Don't get me wrong. But you know what? Drug overdose deaths are serious too. People who have mental illness and emotional difficulties, veterans with PTSD, they count too, folks. They count too. But we don't hear about that. All we hear is you need to wear a mask, because if you don't, somebody's going to die. But what about the people who died because government decided they had to stay in their home? They couldn't work their job. That's wrong. It's wrong because government has gotten too big for its dadgum britches. And it's time we put government back where it belongs and make sure that we have people in government who understand that it's of, by, and for the people. Now, Sam tells me I have two responsibilities. The one is to talk to voters. I just did that. The other is to ask for money. I'm about to do that. If you would like to donate to the campaign, because we do have the opportunity to still run some team, 1.6 million. The other number is 2 million. That's how many people, registered voters in the state of Indiana, didn't vote for governor in 2016. Because they didn't see an option that was worth voting for. And if you think you know of an option worth voting for, maybe, tell them. Go find them, tell them, offer to drive them to the polls, stand there in line and wait with them. Because if we get enough votes from people who are tired of government telling us what to do, instead of realizing that they're supposed to be there for us, not us for them, we can win on Tuesday, November 3rd. And so, again, I'm going to ask for your financial support.
People out here in the community who couldn't make it out here today, but this is phenomenal to see this many people out here today. So thank you very much for coming out. My name is William Henry. I'm a lieutenant governor candidate, and I have the honor and privilege to run with a candidate like Donald, who is so well informed on the Constitution and our rights and our liberties in the state of Indiana, and is willing to fight for that at the State House. And I think that he is such a phenomenal Afghanistan and Kuwait and other areas of the Middle East. I've served state active duty and national active duty for the National Guard. And after that stuff, I started working with the American Legion Department of Indiana. I worked my way up through the administration, became the adjutant, which is the lead administrator for the state for the American Legion posts across the state. And in that position, I had the unique opportunity to be able to advocate at the State House for veterans initiatives. So those first years, we really made some ground in the State House, protecting veterans' benefits and rights, and ensuring that we were creating beneficial programs that were actually, working for veterans and what they wanted. So we were bringing that message to the State House and advocating directly to the legislators. And in that experience, I gained a lot of experience of how the State House works, working with these legislators themselves. So it was a unique experience doing all of that. And in that advocacy role, cannabis was a big issue for veterans in the state of Indiana. Because opioids and benzodiazepines are prescribed, alcohol is abused and used, over-the-counter medications also cause damage and death. But when we have something like cannabis for the states that surround us, that's more freedom and liberty that they get than we don't have. And we run a risk of getting prosecuted here in the state of Indiana because of having possession of such a safe substance like cannabis. And it's a safe alternative. And that was one big issue that we had fought at the State House. Being Lieutenant Governor, I would be able to work with the senators, presiding over the Senate, and directly advocating for the issues that mean the most to the people. And that's what we want to do. We want to work for you, the people. We're not trying to work for corporations. We're not trying to work for special interests. We're trying to work for the people and get the best interests of the people done at the State House. We want to make sure that the things that mean the most to the people are being taken care of at the State House and not just legislating down to everybody. We need to have communication going up and down and ensure that the people are being represented properly. Being the Lieutenant Governor, I would be the Secretary of Agriculture, which would put me in a unique position to be able to organize and work with these folks and how we make this a viable market and how we move this forward and make this a success. So, again, I want to thank you all for coming out.